Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Ewan Graf, and joining me as always is Lachlan Thiele.
On episode 226, Bong Joon Ho is here to save cinema with his latest film that he spends probably a lot more time getting out of the clasps of Warner Brothers and getting the final cut he deserved. Because obviously this film got delayed and delayed, so was the battle worth it, Mr. Ho? I'm talking about, of course, Mickey 17, everyone's most anticipated movie 2 years in a row.
Yes, definitely was at the top of my list there, and I think it was very much at the top for this year. Yet again, if you couldn't already tell from looking at me or from listening, even the audio listeners should probably hear that I'm incredibly sick. I'll tell you more about that in a second. I also got to watch Dreams, which is part of the Sex and Love Oslo trilogy. Great set of movies. And I also saw Runaway Jury and a couple of new episodes of Invincible and The White Lotus. But let's get into the show and let's cue up that intro. We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
I already said if I'm off today, there's a reason for it. I think it's partially that Oscars hangover from the drinking that I did. Usually, I don't know why.
You got
That's
fucked.
yeah. I haven't.
Why'd you
watched
go
it
so
back
hard?
Because it's probably I didn't mean to go that hard, but if I see a shot glass, you fill it up, you drink it. It's just manners.
Of course.
But I think I overdid it a bit. But that wouldn't be the biggest issue because I was also about to get sick regardless. Like I've also talked about it like 2 weeks before that I was like on the precipice of feeling sick, but not all the way, and how annoying that is. And I think that plus I also had a gastropy. Yeah, gastroscopy. I don't know. The one where they put like a tube down your, and I also had like anesthesia, and I think I didn't react well to the anesthesia. Sometimes up to like 3 to 4 days later, you can feel I don't know. Lachlan, have you ever had like anesthesia? Did you ever have an operation where you had to like
Yes, I
they had to
have.
knock you out?
I'm usually okay with it though. I'm usually like waking up and I'm good. To be fair, I haven't had that many procedures in my career, but yeah, I don't ever feel bad though.
Yeah, this was my first one.
But there is
I don't
different
know
type of
what-
anesthesia, I'm pretty sure. So it's like there's different types. So it could just be like they gave you meth or
I had
something.
one that Oh, I just noticed that I also have like a black spot from because they poked me a bunch of times and missed.
You are so out of it. Maybe I should
it's a bit-
host.
It's oh my god.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can see the bruise in your
haven't
hand.
I haven't noticed the bruises, and because they missed, I have like 6 of them. So we just watched.
Ewan,
I
can
just
I even
watched Late
ask,
Shift and
when did
held
you
in.
see Mickey 17?
I watched it like 2 weeks ago. Press screening. It is. a
Dude,
while
you're not
back.
gonna remember jack shit about this movie. My god.
Well, I do remember most of it, and we'll get into that in the review. But it's just not. I think one of the issues could have been, which isn't on the hospital at all, that I think they went by a file when I was last at my doctor's when we set this kind of up, and it took like 2 months to get it done. Since then, I've lost like a couple of kilograms, and I think they might have overdid the dosage because I felt as soon as like the painkillers dropped off, like I was all good. I was like high as a kite coming out of the hospital. I had to go home by myself. Took a
Yeah, it
bus.
was
and was
really
like,
funny.
and then I sent you a voice message. I was but I also first didn't clarify.
5.5 minute voice message.
And then I also made a private Instagram story to my close friends where I said like I survived, still alive, but I feel drowsy. And a lot of people thought that I almost had died. I did the same with Lachlan. It was really out of pocket, but in my defense, I was really high. And so over the last couple of days, I've had to message about like 20 people that no, I'm not dying. I don't have cancer. They tested me for not having cancer, which is at least here I don't have cancer, but I do have another thing that is recurring and that has been plaguing me for the last 2 years. But I feel like that's enough of like the health talk. I'm fucked, and you'll hear it for the rest of it. But I think that shouldn't take away from us enjoying
At least it's not
the latest
cancer.
movie. Exactly. At least it's not. The funny thing is, my doctor didn't say that I was testing cancer. It was like, yeah, no, let's just be safe and do a checkup. He didn't tell me that it was to test cancer, and then like the doctor came. I was like, "Well, good news, it's not cancer." And I was like, "It could have been." So,
That was an option.
That was an option. I didn't know that. I had symptoms of that. So yeah, I'm glad that that's not the case. No need for Yeun to roll out. Although I'm not sure what they did with me while I was out, because I was so out, and yeah, I've never had anesthesia like that. So maybe I'm just, some people, maybe you are just like easy, you deal with it easier, and I'm not doing so hot with the anesthesia. That's all the stuff that we can get into before we talk about our main review of the week, which is the very much anticipated Mickey 17. Bong Joon Ho has been cooking up this one, I guess, since his 4 Oscar wins for Parasite. It got delayed a bunch. It was supposed to come out, I think, in 2024, right, in like May, and then they pushed it to this year in January, pretty early on, and then they pushed it to June, but then they moved it back up to March, so it like moved around a bunch. But Lachlan, what's Mickey 17 all about?
Unlikely hero Mickey Barnes finds himself in the extraordinary circumstance of working for an employer who demands the ultimate commitment to the job. To die for a living.
Would you take that job, Lachlan? It doesn't sound too intriguing.
Look, honestly, I thought, I think I would.
You
like,
would?
I think I reckon I would do it.
Really?
Like, if I was in a, like,
in his
like,
situation?
right now I'm trying to buy a house, right? Right now I'm trying to buy a house. And
Yeah.
if anyone just Googles the situation of buying a house in Australia, the first thing you'll see on Google's like AI thing is it just says it's fucked. So I'm at a point where I'm like, well, do I do a different job that makes me more money so I can get more money to buy a house? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, what if I did this as a living? How much would I actually get paid? And the thing is, I don't think they ever talk about like what he gets paid. I think he just gets paid the trip to Niflheim.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like I don't think that's worth it for what he did. But like, if I'm making like 200K a year, then now we're talking. Now we're in the leagues of me talking. Australian dollars, obviously. If it was US dollars, I'd fucking do it. That's like 400 Australian dollars right now. 100,000 Australian dollars. So yeah.
I think just after not even being in a near-death experience and dealing with this, the repercussions of this, the sickness, I don't know if I could do that over and over again in like way worse situations. So I think I would just deal with what's his name, Darius Blank, to like scoop me up and do whatever.
What a guy.
It's also well, actually, let's get into this. It is an adaptation of Mickey 7 from Edward Ashton, and there's
How far
a
did you
lot
get
of
in?
changes. I didn't get far because I wanted to finish it yesterday.
Okay.
Like the last couple of days, I took it to the hospital, and I'm on page 81 out of 300 and something, 320, I believe, or 15. I'm gonna finish it because I think it's an interesting book. There's also already so many changes from the book to this, to the movie. I think some of the changes are for the better, and some I don't really see why Bong Joon Ho made the changes. A lot of it will come down to some of the performances being attributed to some current day people, like Mark Ruffalo's Kenneth Marshall be like kind of an accumulation of like Trump and Elon Musk. It definitely is a bit of like parody on that. And so far, he hasn't had in the first 80 pages of the book a ton of interactions with Marshall, but he doesn't seem to be like as much of a, I don't know, like a sort of culture or political commentary. But the movie so far has, I think, been received pretty decently with a 3.8 over on Letterboxd. Based of 28,000 reviews. Now jumping up, that was yesterday. Now it's already at 72, and it's at a 3.8 still though. On IMDb, it's at a 7.3, and on Metacritic, it was yesterday at a 74 based on 37 reviews, which I think is pretty fair, but we'll get into that. It was made by Warner Brothers or produced by them for a budget of 120 million. It's, I think, definitely his most expensive movie that he's made so far. And do you think this is like a worthy follow-up to Parasite, or will some people like expect something completely different from him after like winning an Oscar for that movie?
Is your question, do I think it's a worthy
But both, I guess.
like follow-up?
Yeah, what do you think, or what do you think? Like, how will more people once it gets seen by even more? Because like Parasite is like basically one of the tied to be the most popular film on Letterboxd, right? So I feel like there's going to be, at least from that community, a huge drive to see it. Do you think this will live up to expectations, or will it fall short for a lot of people?
Well, it ultimately depends, because there is a clear, and you've seen a lot more of his filmography than I have, but there is a clear difference between his English work and his Korean work. There is a clear line between, like, don't get me wrong, it does chop and change a little bit, but when you compare his English work, so let's just go Okja, let's just go Snowpiercer and Mickey 17. Let's just compare those three right now.
Yeah.
A lot of them share very similar aspects, very similar themes, and I think that's worthwhile. And the one thing I will say about all of his English stuff is they're extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
They're extremely thought-provoking, but at the same time, they're dark comedies. They're extremely dark comedies.
Yeah.
Especially with this juxtaposing characters in the, something like Toni Colette's character, who is super bright and bubbly in this extremely desolate and a destructive world, kind of being put next to someone like Mark Ruffalo's Kenneth Marshall's character. In this film, there is these juxtapositions between characters in the world. Same in Snowpiercer. Same thing with Okja. You have these over-the-top characters. Some people are going to love and some people aren't going to love, because in Parasite, you don't have that. You have that one particular character in Parasite that maybe is a little bit over the top, but not to the degree that two of these main antagonistic characters are.
Yeah.
And that's all of his English films. They're the English villains are very, very over the top. But is it a worthy follow-up to Parasite? Yes, because I can't think of a lot of films, especially these entertainment action blockbusters, right?
Mm-hmm.
These sci-fi epics, these dark comedies that present themes so in your face that you can't dismiss that it's trying to say something at the same time whilst being entertaining.
Yeah.
That is a skill that Bong Joon Ho has got nailed down, that in any of these films that I've watched, even if they are just dark, very narrative-driven dramas, there's something he's trying to say, even to big genetic pigs being slaughtered for meat. There is something that he says with every single one of his films that I think is worth the experience, and Mickey 17 has the same thing. Whilst I think Parasite is probably in a league outside of Mickey 17's overall presentation and performances and technical achievements, I still think it's a pretty damn good movie. Yeah. And as a follow-up, it's going to be really hard to beat for Parasite, but it's also fantastic for a movie that's been delayed and has had arguments around who's going to get final cut, and for a narrative that was only written, 3 years ago since the book came out in 2022?
Yeah.
Honestly, like, from what I've heard, he's adapted something that's pretty narratively thematically thin and added some meat to it.
That's what I noticed reading it, the book so far, that, like, for example, Stephen Yeun's character, Timo, who's called, I think, Beto in this version, Berto, he's basically like this prodigy in it, that Mickey, in the book, spoilers for the book, and I guess slight spoilers for the movie, is that basically he was like didn't ever try to be good at something, was always great. For some reason, he had Mickey as a friend all the time. And then he picked up some ball game, never really practiced at it, and over the course of like a year got the best in the whole like country world or whatever. He was like a superstar. To me, that is like a trope of, you have the lesser character next to the other one who has everything handed to him. Or like is just more talented, and maybe we get a bit of character out of it or something like that. It just makes it less interesting when then the reason Mickey's in the situation in the book, it's only him, because he borrowed money and gambled it on like 10 years after Birdo in this or Timo made a return and was like, okay, one last hurrah, let's enter a tournament, let's see if I can win. And he bet against him that he would lose, and he lost all of his money, and even the one that he borrowed from Darius Blank, and that's why he's after him. Here it's also implied that here it's also said that Birdo or Timo was already like doing like flight training. He was already studying to be that. That's why he then so easily got onto the mission. And there are some shortcomings, I think, in the movie where that stuff gets kind of washed over. That like, oh yeah, for some reason, like Timo just kind of talked his way into being a pilot, and it's a bit of like this, like I don't know why stuff happens. It's just like this is my only option, and to me also some of the movie is rather thin in the narrative stuff when it clearly I think wants to have that like other commentary that was so in your face about like, you know, the sort of layered structure of a society that doesn't value someone or see him as lesser, someone who's like basically a maniac, ego-driven, and feels like he's having like a cult over him. Like all of that's not part of the book. And I don't know how much of it is like that effective, as much as I think that Okja and at parts even Snowpiercer, I think Snowpiercer also does the allegory in such a bland way, similar to this, that I couldn't say that I completely loved that part of it. To me, the standout was the performance.
I do.
And yeah, if you like that, then
I love how he does it.
It's very. I love how directly it is in Okja, and I think it works for me way better than it does in Snowpiercer and in Mickey 17. But to me, the standout is more than, for example, in Okja. I do have a couple of issues with some of the performances. I do have that here as well, that I think some of the writing is like, it's really tough to perform. And I don't know if that is part language barrier, part that it's very over the top, and to get that sort of tone right while still having like a dramatic narrative running through it. He is great at that in his own movies, especially in Parasite, to like do that tone shift. And I don't know how successful it is like at all times here. I only have positive things to say about like all of the performances. So I think they're pretty good, pretty great. What I liked the least was probably
really
Mark
do
Ruffalo.
Enjoy.
Yeah, I think his over the topness was
opposing. I love Mark Ruffalo in this. He was channeling Poor Things vibes, and I think he's going for best supporting actor again.
You think so for this?
You may say he's over the... Yeah, dude. You may say he's over the top. I think he's just having fun.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think I can say that for all of them.
Yeah.
You know what? I think Toni Colette's character is more over the top than Mark Ruffalo's one is.
I think so. I loved her character.
What? Okay, yeah, but no. Look, I loved all the performances.
Yeah.
Even the over the top ones, which I did see as over the top. Tanika and I at one point looked at each other, like turned to each other like this, and we were like, "Is he doing?" Oh, yeah, he is doing Trump. Yeah, okay, no worries. He's doing a Trump impersonation. And so we finally kind of clicked and we went, oh, okay, I see. And part of me kind of thought, did they delay this movie because of an election and they didn't really want that kind of correlation to happen to it? But
maybe.
You know what? Fuck it, whatever. Okay, let's start with Robert Patto, because every time he does something, everyone just says the same thing. So let's not spend too much time on this, but let's make sure it's said. He does a fantastic fucking job in this film. He has range because he's playing two different characters who with two different personalities, and that is spot on. But even more impressive than that is that he has to act to himself, and he doesn't have himself to bounce off of. So every time that he's talking and then the other one talks, they did not happen at the same time. They were two different shots stitched together. That's how that would have worked. And that is a talent in itself. So Robert Pattinson, whilst your performances in almost everything else, where you're just one dude, is spectacular. The fact that you've done two performances here, well, technically 17, I didn't count all of them, but anyway, but technically two performances here, and you weren't facing the other you at that time, maybe a stand-in, but you weren't acting with what was going to be used in the final cut. Bravo, because you held up. So Robert Pattinson, top marks. Stephen Yeun's character ended up just being a little bit boring for me. He kind of just popped up and he was basically just slapstick, which again, I didn't hate because I felt like he did a great job with it all. The only character I feel like I didn't have the best time was with Nasha, and I think it's because Nasha at first was completely fine. She was controlling, yada yada yada, but then by the end, she just runs her mouth. She just keeps talking and talking and talking, and I realized her character is there to develop conflict, and that is the point of her character. It's to build conflict between Mickeys, to build conflict between Mickey and Kai, who I totally thought was going to become the love interest for Mickey 17, but whatever. It ended up. I thought
that could have been interesting too, to have like a double relationship between.
Right?
Yeah, that could have been. Yeah. But that wasn't the.
She ended up being the conflict between two Mickeys. Did the whole challenge. Almost thought there was going to be a challenger situation going on in this film. Yeah. There was a scene with her in a room with all of these other people, and she just didn't stop causing conflict between them. And I get it, maybe that was her character, but I just thought that her narrative of being quieter and then becoming a lot more talkative was going to be the role of Mickey 17, because he is quite the introverted one and Mickey 18 is the dominant one. So I thought that it would be like, okay, Mickey 17, the quiet one, ends up becoming the confident one, but no, ends up being Nasha, and then Nasha ends up having this leadership role. But anyway, Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette, Kenneth, Ilfa, all I want to say is they may be over the top, but that is every single one of Bong Joon Ho's villains in his English films. They are over the top, they are crazy, whether it's Tilda Swinton, whether it's
or Tilda Swinton,
Jake Gyllenhaal, or Tilda Swinton, or Tilda Swinton.
Well, she's in two of them.
All of his villains are over the top, and they are chaotic, and they are wild. Yes, Mark Ruffalo is channeling his Trump, he's channeling his inner Hitler. Toni Collette is channeling something, I don't know, but she's doing a great job at it. At being annoying, because I found her character more over the top than Mark Ruffalo. Not as much, not annoying in like annoying sense, but like her character's beats and everything.
Tail
I still loved all the performances.
It was so incredibly misaligned.
The Sauce obsession. Yeah, I was like, what is this movie, and what is it? Like, I get like the food thing with cockroaches and Snowpiercer, but like, what's the obsession with the sauce? Where's the lamb sauce? Someone just loves Gordon Ramsay so much that just wants the sauce. So there was a lot here, and like something like Patsy Fernand's Dorothy, one of the scientists who seemingly throughout the entire thing seems to be the only one with a heart in the science lab. She was the only character where I felt that I wish I had more screen time with, and I thought that maybe would develop. It ends up just becoming a thing right at the end, and if you noticing the emotional connection between her and Mickey, being like, Mickey's still a person, and she kind of develops to be like this one person with a moral compass in the science team. There is that aspect to her, but everyone does a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Everyone is really well written, really well acted, performed, whatever you want to say. I just, I get why people don't like the certain performances. I totally do. But for me, I think it just works.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I dislike any of them. It just doesn't 100% work for me tonally all of the time, when I think he has had a movie, his last movie, where that was just like so to perfection that I think that's not his focus for the English movies. I think he has like a more core-centered idea that he wants to tell the story around, and then he just like kind of lets loose with some of the character beats, which is very fun. And yeah, he's not really holding back. What do you think about like the look and feel? Because I think a lot of it is quite digital. Did that work for you, or what do you think about that?
I don't think it looks quite digital. I think it, again, it looks like his other, because all of his Western work is sci-fi, and I think that it all looks the same. I feel like it has that same feel to them. This sort of dystopian, authoritarian government regimes, people who are trying to do the right thing, sort of, what are
heading
they?
into a crisis that affects the
rebels,
whole world.
Yeah, head into a crisis. They all have similar beats and similar feels. I think that one key aspect that stood out to me was the camera movement in this film. every movement had a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And it was movement that had a purpose to tell a story. And I realized that when certain information was being conveyed from one character to another, and at the time it was dollying from one side of the scene or the room onto the other side. And I was like, oh, they are telling that person information and it's moving across that way. And then as someone discovers something and says something out loud, it moves in, and then someone says something abrupt and their face, it whips to them and they're right there. Like every single movement this camera does has a point. And I'm unsure whether or not he did the same thing that they do on Korean sets for this, and I'm going to assume he does, and that's having an editor on set whilst they shoot so that they can actually edit the scene and see how it flows with all of the sequences that they shoot. I'm pretty sure they did that here, because even the editing is like just... Especially because the film opens in a montage way. It gives you a backstory to how Earth is, because we don't spend that much time on Earth, but it gives you a backstory of Earth, dystopian wasteland that it is, environmental disasters, overpopulation, crime problem, yada yada yada. It gives you a backstory on Mickey, and it's all very quick, haha, and there's a lot of beats and laughs and things like that, but you know it's flowing because I didn't realize 20 minutes had passed until the title credits popped up, and I was like, whoa, hang on a second, look at my watch. It's been like 20 minutes. Where did that last 20 minutes go? What the fuck just happened? Because I was engulfed into this world, because everything in that sequence had a purpose to introduce us. And even though there was some narration, and I know that we're a little bit iffy about narration on this podcast, but I don't mind it from time to time, I think it worked. And then the rest of the film is the ride to Niflheim, and then being on Niflheim and all the shit that happens.
Oh, you did have as editor Young Jin Mo, who won the Oscar for... did he win for editing? Did Parasite also win editing? It won... No, it won screenplay, director, international feature, and picture. It didn't win.
Parasite.
No, it didn't win.
You got it up already?
Yeah, no, I just realized that it says multiple Academy Award winner Parasite, but not that the editing one. Because I think the editing in that year went to like Ford v Ferrari or like some other movie that had like more editing. I don't remember what one, but he worked with him on Okja.
Had more editing.
Wait, what did it go to?
No, nothing. I just like how you said it went to something that had more editing.
I mean, that's often
I was like,
the
well,
case.
That's typically how it goes.
You know,
I mean,
why not in
what's
recent
the
years,
movie? Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Everything Everywhere at Once also had more editing, but I think Anora this year didn't have more editing than some other picks. But he also worked with him on Parasite.
Screenplay, Best International Achievement in Directing, and Best Motion Picture.
Yeah, I just remembered that I do know which four it won. But I mean, it's also but I think it just kind of left me cold in places, and obviously we are on Niflheim, we are on an ice planet. I just didn't have that hype that I had with some of his other movies, and then after this one, rewatching all of his other films for our series that, because I'm so sick, has been delayed. Actually, at this point, those videos should all be up. They are coming later. We reviewed every single one of Bong Joon Ho's films. It's a great series, but they're still in the editing bay because we weren't editing while we were shooting, I guess.
Great series.
Great series, the best one. It's the longest one. We got all of the movies in there. It's got great sauce. Yeah, it tastes great. You want to talk a bit about like the actual story, a bit more of like spoilers? Because I'd be interested in what you think about.
I guess we can talk about spoilers for the narrative.
About the critters, about like those creatures. Because I think that's one part that
creepers.
Creepers. Are they critters in this?
I'm pretty sure they're called creepers because I went to make a Minecraft reference during the movie.
Yeah, to the song, or that it is just creeper that they're about to explode. It would be very funny if they explode.
Yeah.
I think they're called critters in
okay,
in the book.
Story. So, okay, becoming expendable, going through the montage. I guess the narratively, I guess it really comes down to like themes that the film is trying to talk about, and I think for me, the film story tries to say a lot about colonialism, race,
colonialism, and cloning. Never mind. I'll see myself out.
Obviously, cloning. There's naturally going to be themes of identity in the world that you live in and in your own body. There's a lot of different things that this film tries to say, but those are kind of the big four that jumped out to me. The story backs it up because, again, Bong Joon Ho knows how to make something entertaining and have his themes just kind of like right there. And you have them arriving on a planet. You have
basically Mickey having
Kenneth
to give
Marshall
up a couple of his lives
becoming Hitler
to make it safe, to kind of test out that.
Yeah.
And I think where they are completely losing out, I think what is so over the top is like how immediately he's seen as so much lesser than them, which other than taking this job, I don't know what the justification is, like how much lesser they see him as, but it's just kind of used to have him be this down on his luck, like loser that doesn't need to step up. So his, I guess, Mickey 18 is such a contrast to, in the book, they aren't that different. There's not like one that, is way more dominant, is a bit more of an asshole. So I found that an interesting change as well, as to like making that decision. And it's also in the book when they make the decision of who should die. They play rock, paper, scissors, 7 loses. And 8 pulls him back up because he doesn't want him to die. And in the movie, it's a fight that breaks out, and they're only kept alive because like Timo shows up, right? A lot of it, I think, is a bit changed for a bit more drama, because maybe it wouldn't have been as tense if you stayed closer to the adaptation. But I'm very curious to like continue reading and seeing. Again, I really wanted to do this because I think it would have been interesting to see all of the differences that Bong makes for his movies. I'm sure there's a bunch. Then he goes down. The doubled version comes out. Kai shows her interest. Nasha kind of finds out that there's 2 of them. She's totally fine with that. There's the Marshall who completely just hates him and always wants to like punish him for something, but it is all over the place. And then basically just them finding out that the creepers aren't like harmful, that they aren't there to kill them, even though they're colonializing this planet. They're not there to like attack them. And the first instinct of humans is to level ground and basically just kill everything and dominate. I think that is the most clear.
How quickly can we make a nuke?
Yeah, no, it always comes back to that.
It's always how quickly can we make a nuke?
Before you translate,
the whole narrative does revolve around, especially Mickey being a clone, whether or not he is human. Which I think is like an interesting take, is that like a lot of them see him as lesser because obviously him being a clone. But one of the key things that Mickey has to kind of come to the decision of, and they often talk about, is how he's still afraid of dying, even though he's done it 16 times at this point.
Yeah.
And he knows he comes back. Even though, and probably this is my favorite message about it, is it doesn't matter how many times you come close to dying, nothing is going to prepare you for the inevitable end that we all experience.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Doesn't matter if you were someone who died 100+ times, you may still never be prepared for the end. And I felt like that was like something that was really nice that the story tries to say, and just something so simply said. Nothing that goes into too much depth. But yeah, I have to admit, I have to put this out there for anyone who hasn't seen this movie. If your partner doesn't like animals being hurt, even if they are CG animals, don't take them to see this, because I think I lost brownie points because I took Tanika to this, and there was, Tanika has not recovered after I showed her Okja.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I realized I shouldn't, even though they are CGI pigs, there is a connection there that people will make, and even though they are faceless fucking whatever you want to call them,
just plushies. They're
creepers,
selling plushies, and I think
I'll buy
they're
one.
really cute.
I think I'd buy one.
Maybe,
but yeah, don't take them to that. Just as a spoiler.
Especially with the babies.
The one that died was called Zuko, I think, and I can't remember exactly what the name was. But anyway, we are Avatar fans, and Zuko is important to us. So yeah, there you go. I don't think I have much more to say about this about this film. I think that kind of was the most of it. And you know what?
I like
That's
the action scene towards the end when like Nasha needs to hold on to, like, when everything kind of comes together. And I think the finale that he built is quite exciting. I
thought it was fine.
I like that bit the most. I can't say that I love the opening. I think, well, no, actually, when I came out of the theater, I thought that this movie is kind of is like, you could divide it up into 3 parts, although there's not 3 parts. And I think the first part is the weakest.
Wow,
Second
3
is
acts, who would have thought that?
the second is the strongest, and the third then is a bit of a dip down from the second one. So it's not like the highlight of the movie. I think that middle part to me is like where it shines the most.
I'm in the opposite. I actually think the ending
I love that.
is...
You get so much out of it. You know, different people get different stuff.
No, I just don't think the ending has... I mean, it has stakes, but I don't think it has the same stakes that Snowpiercer or Parasite or Okja or Memories of Murder, or, like, any of them offer. I don't think... I think that there are stakes. I just don't think there is a stake that's big enough for me to be emotionally attached to it. And I think that's inevitably why I ended up at my score being not higher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Because of my detachment to any emotional connection to these characters. I mean, yes, you're not going to really attach to someone who can just die and be recloned, whatever. But even when the stakes are high, I just didn't find a reason to attach. I mean, like, pigs being murdered and abused, that gets an emotional reaction out of me. The societal class failure of the train in Snowpiercer and the lies, that got to me. But, like, we all knew that Kenneth Marshall was a dick, and we all kind of knew he was a racist, and we all kind of knew that nothing was revealed at the end for me to kind of be like, the stakes are taken higher. Like, what genuinely would have made the stakes higher, and this is my only key point, is if Kenneth succeeded killing the motherfucking thing.
That would have been pretty tragic, but I think it really wanted to have that moment after where they were actually bluffing, you know, in a way that they like didn't have the capability to, like.
So let's say, okay, so let's take away that scene, right? Like, take away that scene. And you know what? You could have that conversation. Any of the, like surely, like, she's the oldest, right? But surely there's something that's just as old as her. Let's say there's multiple of her. She's just the one that's there right now, right? There's got to be multiple of them, but because they act like a hive mind. But let's take away, what would you rather? That emotional scene of Kenneth succeeding, grabbing the rocket launcher, saying, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Boof. Explosion. Mickey reacts. Other Mickey reacts. Naomi reacts. Patsy reacts. There's a whole quietness. They start to storm the thing, so all the other human lives are in danger. Kenneth has just ruined it for everybody. And then, for whatever reason, it gets resolved. Would that scene be more important than a joke at the end?
I mean, I like, to me, it comes back to Timo in the opening saying, Mickey, are you, like, what's it like to die? And he does that, like, twice, and it never works for me. It's like, it jolted me back and was like, oh, this is cringe.
Yeah.
It didn't work. And I think we are on that tonal thing all the way to the end. And if that works for you, then also that ending works better for you. Because we do have that sacrifice of Mickey 18 dying, where you didn't get attached to that character. But I think that was the intention, that maybe that sacrifice to take out Marshall was the high stakes moment. And maybe that will be a bit more maybe that will work a bit better for other people. It did work for me. I didn't need to see any of the creeper stuff.
No, but like the you don't need to see the creepers die, but you see a whole bunch of the pigs die. You don't.
Yeah, but
18's death is predicted because they talk about how one of them has to die.
Okja is a bit more tragic though, because it basically is at the end, or spoilers for Okja, by the end they do get Okja back. Like, the thing with the pigs, that is still ongoing. It is just kind of implied that, like, the Animal Liberation Force will go back. but that's an ongoing thing that has existed before and will continue to exist.
You know what?
And it's also something that, we
I
currently, and in that way, if you grew sympathy for Okja specifically, it's very different. Are you for Okja or for all of the picks? Do you have for Mickey as a character or for all the Mickeys that are clones? And we do also get that sort of happy ending with a Mickey that is still around by the end.
Let's say this then. With all of these other ones, they are dark comedies, and this is a comedy that's dark. Let's say that. Would you agree? Because I feel like this film tries to be funnier.
It does, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I laugh, and I think the humor really does work, but I don't think it's as dramatically intense, or I don't think it's emotionally riveting as any of these other films that I've watched.
I know, agreed.
I just feel like it doesn't hit that point. So I feel like it's entertaining, it's funny, it's dark, it's thought-provoking. I just don't think it has that tone that makes me go, yeah, this film is saying something. It makes me go, yeah, it made me laugh, and it also says something.
You know what? What I just noticed as well is that, like, in his American movies, in Snowpiercer, he does have a hero that we get revealed by the end is also flawed. In Okja, we do have a heroine that is just under the system, but she has only good in her. I don't think she makes, like, a big mistake. I think she's basically, like, a pretty perfect heroine that is just, like, caught up in the hijinks of whatever happens to her. Here, we do have another one who has made his own, is like somewhere in between, where he is like a loser, but he also is a loser because Timo forced his hand. But then he never really. It's also interesting in a novel because he blames Berto for a bunch of his problems. When I was reading, I was like, no, Mickey, I feel like that was your mistake. But it's written from Mickey's perspective, and some of his other movies show like really flawed characters in Memories of Murder, in the Host as well, in Mother especially, and you just don't get that like character depth in this one. So I do agree. I think this is a comedy first. If you had to like assign, like even before maybe it is a sci-fi movie, it might even be a comedy. Like that seems to be its biggest focus. But I still had a decent time with it. Like when you said your rating is not as high as it could have been, or maybe is for some other of his films. I arrived at a 7 out of 10 or 3.5 out of 5. Still pretty positive, but it's right around like I've seen them all now. It's not my lowest rated of his English main language movies. I think that's Snowpiercer for me. Then followed up by this one. Then I got Barking Dogs Never Bite, a movie that basically probably no one really has seen, but it's his first like feature film. Got that above it, and then a couple more the rest of it. But yeah, what about you, Lachlan?
I ultimately arrived at a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed the film, from just like sitting there and entertainment wise. I just don't think it reaches the heights that his other films do, but I still think it's technically strong. The score, by the way, fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't think we've touched on it, but the score is
the sound
beautiful.
Always
it's mostly
stuff, you know?
Piano sound is fantastic, but the piano that comes through and then there's some strings that come through, it just so good. 4 out of 5.
What are the films that you haven't seen of his film? You haven't seen Barking Dogs Never Bite and Mother, probably. Have you seen The Host?
Yes, I've seen The Host, but I don't think I've logged it because I watched it ages ago and I didn't have Letterboxd at the time.
Yeah.
I just didn't log it because I don't really remember it that well. Just
curious if it like ranks higher up for you, or what did you give Parasite? Is Parasite like a 5 out of 5 to you, or like a 4.5? Or
Parasite's like a 5 out of 5. And then Okja and Snowpiercer are like 4s as well. They all sit in the 4 mark for me because they all have their own flaws.
Yeah.
I think that for me, this one does rank pretty high because I think I enjoy just the technical achievement that it ends up having. So, yeah, I won't rank his filmography right now. I won't do it live in front of you. I like to think about it.
I mean, that's fine by me. I mean, I had time to, again, when we went over his whole filmography, to give that a bit of time. So I think I'll link mine below, and you'll also find it in the videos that hopefully some of them should be up by the time this episode goes live. Fingers crossed, unless I like completely drop out again. I feel like I'm holding on to like like a final straw. I'm like about to pass out. But I didn't think about this, but you already have. What would you pair up with Mickey 17 as like a double feature?
So my pick is Moon. Duncan Jones, Sam Rockwell. I immediately thought of it as soon as I had to put down a double feature. That is my pick. I think it's a good one.
Well, I got a better one. What about?
All right, show off.
What about even more frames? What about Gemini Man?
Fuck off. That's not your double pick, is it?
I don't have another one. That's just only. I was about to type in clone movies, and I was like,
fuck
no,
you.
Gemini Man.
if that is such a me pick, and you would be so pissed off by it if I picked.
Well, you got the
Jesus
good one.
Christ.
Moon is a great pick for this. So
Moon's a great pick. I know.
I don't know.
I'm so
First
glad
Man,
I
maybe.
wrote it
I don't
down.
know what else I would go with. There's a bunch of great space exploration movies. There's not as many space colonization / also Trump slash Elon is on the ship, so it's quite unique in that way. But yeah, that wraps up our review. Definitely let us know what you thought of it, what your favorite Mickey is, but no, what your favorite Bong Joon Ho movie is, and if this one is like, you know, all the way up there or if it's somewhere in the middle. But let's have a quick look at what we've been watching this week. And from what I can read here in our show notes, you didn't watch anything besides Mickey 17.
Yeah.
But I think last week you did go mini golfing at some point. So can you tell us about like that?
Oh wait, I did mini golf.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have the scores in front of me. I have not counted it, and it's been basically a week since.
Oh, you didn't? I mean,
played. No, we
this-
kept score. I just haven't counted it yet.
yeah,
so.
but there's like two groups of like, you know, the ones that do it hole by hole, or the ones that are like, yeah, no, we'll do it at some point. We'll figure it out. And I guess you are.
No. We scored. We scored.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you write it down, but not like that you calculate it. Because there's some groups that like want to know it hole by hole, so they can.
Oh no.
Get really
yeah, we
intense.
do it right. I decided to
I've
do
been
it
a part
right at
of
the end.
two types of groups, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't have that. But yeah, I did mini golf. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but like I'm looking at. I mean, I said it earlier, but like I'm looking at buying a house. So like that's pretty much what my time has been absorbed doing, which is a lot of effort. I haven't even played games. I mean, I played like 30 minutes of like Path of Exile the other day, Path of Exile 2, but like
yeah. Are you playing Split Fiction?
Damn it.
That just came out with the
No, I think I'm gonna save that to be the first game we play when we get a place. I think that would be nice because we've played It Takes Two and we've played the other one where you escape from prison. I can't remember what the name was, but
A Way Out.
We've played those games. A Way Out. That's it. I feel like doing Split Fiction when we get a place would be really nice. So
Sounds good.
we'll do that.
When having a place is no longer fiction.
It would be so nice.
I'm rooting for you. I watched also some stuff. I'll keep it brief though, because I did watch the latest episode of Invincible, season 3, episode 7. And if you go onto the IMDb, you see that it's currently rated based on 9,000 reviews at a 9.8. And it's because it does basically, I think, a very favored liked run in the comics. I've seen some one-to-one comparisons of basically, without spoiling, also Invincible is hard to spoil because like often they have like a storyline that goes for 1 or 2 episodes and then they just have like a huge new thing that comes in. But this one basically sees like 18 other Invincibles from different universes come in and destroy like the planet. It's pretty intense. There's some high stakes moments that happen. The episode before had like a new character that came in played by Aaron Paul. That was a pretty decent one. I like that one quite a bit. This is a bit of a mess because it jumbles so many things and the episode already is like 50 minutes long. But Invincible, if you don't mind the really simple animation, it's a pretty fun story that, you know, also is like more in the vein of like The Boys, where it's very bloody, there's a lot of death, and if you're in for that vibe, I think Invincible delivers more often than not. And I also already got to see, by the time this episode comes out, the episode will have premiered. But the third season of The White Lotus is definitely combining a bit more of like the lore of the first 2 seasons, where that becomes relevant. And I think this latest episode was a bit of more of like a setup stage. So I think it is like the perfect time to get into it, because I think by the time the series concludes, we'll have another great season on our hands. And so far, I think Watton Goggins has been a great highlight. I also love there's like a group of 3 women who are like incredibly toxic, but like in a very friendly way. In like the it's so fun to like watch. I love the set of characters this time around. Then I did get a screener that was provided to me for a film that it's called Dreams that premiered at the Berlinale. It's funny because there was another movie called Dream that played there and another one called Dreams. So they did have to change the name of the title and add Sex Love because it's part of like a trilogy from Dag Johan Hagerud, a Norwegian filmmaker that basically tells like different stories that aren't connected, only thematically and through the city of Oslo. And this one, Dreams, is about a girl who's like 17, who's in class and falls in love with her teacher. Then basically writes down all of the emotions she has for her, and it becomes, in a way, such a raw experience in the way that she describes it, that ultimately when she shows it to her family, they are quite excited by it. And a lot of these movies are just conversations between 2 or 3 people, and they're so riveting. This is like shooting up in the ranks of like my favorite trilogies made, because I've seen Sex and Love as well. This is definitely probably my least favorite of them, but it's still like an 8 out of 10. I think this is a really solid movie still. And then I also watched, while I was really sick, I just wanted to put on a movie. I went over to Gene Hackman's Letterboxd page and sorted by which one is streaming on Netflix. And then I watched Runaway Jury, where he plays a gun manufacturer's basically consultant to help them flip juries to get a win, and basically to make sure that nothing changes about the gun laws. And to that, a movie that came out in 2003, and that's still being basically the same issue, if not way worse since then, was so depressing to me. So I don't know why it was. I was weak on my like energy as well, but I was quite engrossed in the story. I think it's really silly at times. The editing is apart. It's pretty terrible. And the writing isn't the greatest either. It's very idealistic, but I had still a great time with it. And it like definitely gave off the vibe of like these early to mid 2000s movies that you look at and you're like, oh my God, there's like so much in this that you wouldn't see a movie like this being made anymore. And it's like a stereotypical thing to say, but I think these types of movies really aren't made as much anymore unless they are like so directly going for an Oscar, which this wouldn't get nominated anyways, but like, you know, that's what it would be nowadays. So that was a pleasant watch, and I'll likely watch some more of Gene Hackman's movies, as I think for the both of us is a bit of a blind spot, like a bunch of his filmography, and it's such a like a big filmography as well. But yeah, that I can recommend. But that's all the stuff that I watched this week, and I didn't really have anything in news other than that there's like a rumor that Charli XCX is being eyed to star as Jadis, the White Witch, in Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie. And I was wondering, I mean, what do you think about that? And also, with that potential casting announcement, who do you think, who else will like star in this movie?
I'm thinking we get Troye Sivan as Mr. Thomas.
I thought it was Timothy Chalamet, you know, just the easy one, but
Timothy Chalamet. Yeah, I think we get Timothy Chalamet as
Troye Sivan
Aslan.
If she makes a musical, I guess.
We get Brat Summer. We get Brat Winter. This time round.
Oh my God, no, you can't do that to me. Oh my God. Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me. That is really good. That
literally
is
killing
one.
him.
Yeah.
It's not cancer, but I am almost killing him.
Oh my God, that is really funny. Brad Winter. That's not.
Hopefully, she brings out an album.
That's not even.
Also, isn't there like, meant to be like 8 movies or something? How many is the White Witch? I don't know. I don't know. I've never read the books. I've only watched like the first film.
There's like 7 or 8 books, yeah. And they also have like only for about 2.5 books. It's the same characters, and then it changes. Then like the older ones can't return anymore, so it's only the younger ones. At one point, there's like 2 incredibly despicable characters that enter Narnia, and then you just follow like 2 little assholes. So there's a lot that happens in Narnia. Cool. I haven't read most of them. I read a few of them when I was younger, but I don't remember them that well. but I might pick it back up because it's been a ton of fun to like read a book that's being adapted. I can read. Sometimes I read.
I can read.
Fellas, can you read? Because I can. But yeah, this to me is interesting. It's just rumor right now, and I think in the comedy sketches that she's appeared in, I think she does fine as an actress. And I think we'll see that more often, where like there will be a bit of a bleed over for like artists from music to do. I mean, it's happened like already a bunch. Wouldn't be surprised if this like actually ends up being a pretty decent choice. But it's interesting because she's basically like the main villain in that movie. So it's an interesting one. If they end up going with her. There's also a couple of new releases that come out this week. Again, we have a selection of things that we found interesting or that we'd recommend. First up, I'm Still Here, the now international Oscar winner from Brazil, opens in Switzerland. Then we also got the new movie from Steven Soderbergh, Black Bag, that is a thriller starring Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender that opens in the States and in some international markets. I think for you, I don't know if it's next week or in like 2 weeks' time, but I know in like Belgium they're getting it. We aren't getting it until like May, but is what it is. Novocaine is also out. That's Jack Quaid as a guy who can't feel pain. They also changed the name here in Switzerland to Mr. No Pain, which is a choice, I guess. It's very direct.
Much better name.
Do you think so? I don't know. It's to me, it's like so. It feels like such a baby thing. Especially because I think his name is called Kane in the movie. That's why I accidentally wrote Jack Kane instead of Jack Quaid in the show notes. But I saved.
Well, we're not getting it until like April, so we got a while to go.
Same.
But this week in Australia, we do have Black Bag coming out from Soderbergh, so you can catch that. And out on Netflix, we are having The Electric State coming out on March 14th. And just a general shout out that if you wanted to see one of the Oscar movies, this is probably all around the place, but a lot of the movies that won Oscars are doing re-screenings in cinemas at the moment. So I saw Flow, I saw Anora popping up. I'd highly recommend having a squiz at your local cinema to see what movies are screening, because there's a possibility that there's something there that you haven't seen from the Oscars that won, and it's probably doing a screening right now.
Yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm so curious what you'll think of the Electric State, because I know you were a fan of the base material for that. Will it deliver when it's Joe and Anthony Russo adapting it for a Netflix movie with Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown? We'll have to wait and see. But that might even be one of the movies we talk about next week, because again, Black Bag isn't coming out until May for me. So unless I can somehow get my hands on it, I would love to chat about that as our main feature, but that is still up in the air. It's also still up in the air if my voice will sound any different. Hopefully it will sound better next week and I won't look like as much of a zombie. But yeah, anything else? Luckily, I'll hand it off to you to like close it out, because I'm oh god, I need some water, and I just
I don't know what to say. I guess I just gotta say the usual. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to Quiet on Set here. We really enjoy your feedback. If you could leave a comment and like whatever you want to do. We also are on pretty much every single streaming service, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. You can listen to us pretty much everywhere. Ewan's got socials, I've got socials. Follow us on our Letterboxd HQ. Next week we're doing Black Bag.
Maybe.
No.
Hopefully,
no, something else. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Black Bag. If Ewan doesn't die, we're doing Black Bag.
Otherwise, I will show up as a cameo in a Black Bag, and you still get to do the episode.
Oh my god, the podcast is just going to be me. That would be a really, really slow podcast. But an hour-long episode today, which is not too bad. So if you wanted to squeeze one in, then hey, look at that. Nice little recording. And means Ewan doesn't have to do too much to this episode. I feel like there's not a lot of editing for you this week, mate.
No, we were so perfect. It's almost like the whole show was storyboarded out by Bong Joon Ho.
Shit, hang on. I haven't been recording for the past 20 minutes.
No, he's fucking with me. Because like that's his
I'm fucking with you.
So he couldn't,
I'm fucking with you.
This guy's trying to kill me.
I'm fucking with you.
Anyway,
thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you hopefully next time.
You say bye.
Bye.
You do my line.
Bye. I'm Lachlan Thiele.
Oh God, Jesus, shut up. You need to shut up. Your voice is terrible. I'm stopping the recording.